My dentist found a microchip in my tooth. I never had dental surgery before. The X-ray image appeared on the screen, and Dr. Patricia Huang went very quiet. That's the kind of silence that makes your stomach drop. The kind of silence that means something is deeply, profoundly wrong. I was sitting in the dental chair with a paper bib clipped around my neck, my mouth still numb from the local anesthetic, waiting for her to tell me I needed a filling or a root canal or some other routine dental nightmare. Instead, she was staring at the monitor like she'd just seen a ghost. "Mr. Carver," she said finally, her voice carefully controlled. "When was your last dental procedure? Any implants, crowns, surgical work?" "Never," I told her. "I mean, I had braces when I was 14, but that's it. No surgeries, no implants, just cleanings and that one filling in my molar like 5 years ago." "Why? What's wrong?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she zoomed in on a specific area of the X-ray, a detailed image of my upper left bicuspid. And there, embedded in the tooth structure, was something that definitely wasn't natural. It was small, maybe 2 millimeters across, but perfectly geometric, rectangular, metallic, with what looked like circuit traces visible even through the X-ray. "There's something in your tooth," she said. "Something that shouldn't be there. It appears to be some kind of electronic device. My name is David Carver. I'm 32 years old. I work as a data analyst for a mid-sized insurance company, and up until that moment in Dr. Huang's office, my life had been aggressively, almost depressingly normal. I lived alone in a one-bedroom apartment in suburban Portland. I had a cat named Database who mostly ignored me. I played video games on weekends. I was, by any measure, unremarkable. The kind of person who blends into crowds, who gets forgotten at parties, who lives an entire life without ever being particularly noticed. Which is why the idea that someone had implanted a microchip in my tooth was absurd. I wasn't important. I didn't have access to classified information. I wasn't involved in anything remotely interesting or valuable. I was just a guy who processed actuarial tables and ate too much takeout and occasionally remembered to floss. "That's impossible," I said. "I've never had any dental surgery beyond that filling, and that was just a standard cavity repair. There's no way anyone could have put something in my tooth without me knowing." Dr. Huang pulled up several different angles of the X-ray. The device was clearly visible in all of them, sitting right in the center of the tooth, embedded in the dentin layer. It wasn't near the surface. It was deep, positioned in a way that would require either incredibly invasive surgery or somehow access during the tooth's formation, which made no biological sense whatsoever. "I need to be honest with you, David," Dr. Huang said. "In 20 years of practice, I've never seen anything like this. This isn't a standard dental implant. It's not medical equipment. It looks more like something you'd find in a computer." She turned away from the screen and looked directly at me. "I think we need to remove it and have it analyzed." "Remove it?" I said, my voice going up an octave. "You want to crack open my tooth to pull out a mysterious chip that shouldn't exist?" "I know it sounds extreme," she said, "but whatever this is, it's a foreign object in your body. We need to understand what it is, how it got there, and whether it poses any health risks. With your permission, I'd like to extract it right now. The tooth is already numb, and I can do the procedure under the guise of treating a cavity. If anyone asks, that's what we're doing." But I think the less attention we draw to this, the better. There was something in her tone that made me pause, a note of genuine concern, maybe even fear. "Why do you want to keep it quiet?" I asked. "Because," she said slowly, "devices like this don't end up in people's teeth by accident. If someone implanted this in you, they did it for a reason. And until we know what that reason is, I think discretion is advisable." She paused. "Also, I'm required by law to report certain things to authorities. Unexplained foreign objects in patients can trigger investigations. But if we document this as a routine filling repair, We have time to figure out what we're dealing with before involving anyone else. The rational part of my brain was screaming that this was insane, that I should demand a second opinion, maybe get the police involved. Definitely not let someone start drilling into my tooth based on a... When Dr. Huang finally extracted the device, she placed it directly into a small metal container without examining it closely. The tooth was then filled and sealed with composite resin, made to look like a standard dental repair. To anyone reviewing my records, this would appear to be a routine cavity treatment. Nothing remarkable, nothing worth investigating. After the anesthetic wore off, Dr. Huang called me into her private office. She'd closed the blinds and locked the door, which did nothing to ease my growing anxiety. The metal container sat on her desk between us. "Before we open this," she said, "I need to ask you some questions, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Have you ever worked for the government? Military? Intelligence agencies?" "No," I said. "I've worked for the same insurance company for 7 years. Before that, I was in college, state school, nothing special, business degree. Any family history of government or military service?" "My dad was in the Army for 4 years in the 80s, but he was just a supply clerk. Nothing classified or special ops or anything like that. He retired and became an accountant." "Have you ever been hospitalized? Any surgeries? Procedures where you were under anesthesia?" I thought about it. "Tonsils out when I was 6. That's it. And I've had maybe 3 or 4 times I've been put under for various medical things, but nothing dental." Dr. Huang made notes on a pad. "Any unexplained gaps in your memory? Time you can't account for? Strange experiences?" I almost laughed, but the expression on her face stopped me. "You think I was abducted or something? Experimented on?" "I think someone implanted a sophisticated electronic device in your tooth without your knowledge or consent," she said flatly. "Which means either you were unconscious during the procedure or you don't remember it happening. Both scenarios are deeply concerning." She was right. I ran through my memories, looking for gaps, strange periods, anything unusual. But there was nothing. My life was documented in exhausting detail. Work schedules, apartment lease agreements, credit card statements showing my boring purchases of groceries and gas. No missing time, no unexplained trips, no periods of unconsciousness beyond routine medical procedures, and even those were fully documented. "Nothing," I said. "As far as I can remember, my life has been completely normal, aggressively normal. I'm not interesting enough to Microchip." Dr. Huang picked up the metal container. "Let's see what we're dealing with." She opened it carefully, using tweezers to lift out the extracted device. Under the bright light of her desk lamp, it was even more disturbing than it had appeared on the X-ray. The device was roughly the size of a grain of rice, rectangular with a metallic casing that looked like a combination of surgical steel and something else, something darker and less reflective. One end had what appeared to be microscopic contact points. The other end tapered into something that might have been an antenna or a data transmission point. And along the sides, visible under magnification, were markings. Not random scratches, but deliberate engravings, letters and numbers. "Hello. Before we continue with this incredible story, I have an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without prior notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content. I love meeting each of the amazing people who are part of this community. Your participation makes a difference. Let's interact." Now, where was I? Right. Dr. Huang was examining the device under magnification, reading the tiny engravings along its side. She pulled out her phone and took several high-resolution photos, then showed them to me zoomed in. The markings were clearly visible. DH7 followed by what looked like a serial number, and then another code. PRTCL-MNTR 2019. 2019, I said. That's 4 years ago. If this was implanted in 2019, I would have been 28. I tried to remember anything unusual from that year. It was the year I'd gotten promoted to senior analyst, the year I'd moved to my current apartment. Nothing extraordinary. No hospitalizations. No dental work beyond a routine cleaning in March. Protocol monitor, Dr. Wong read. That's what PRTCL MNTR could stand for. And DH might be a manufacturer designation or project code. She looked at me. David, I think this device has been monitoring something. Possibly transmitting data. The question is what, and to whom? How would it even work? I asked. There's no power source. No battery. She used her magnification tool to examine the device more closely. See this end? The tapered section? I think it's designed to harvest energy from your body. Bioelectric energy from nerve impulses, or possibly thermal energy from your metabolism. There are experimental medical devices that work on similar principles. Pacemakers that power themselves from heartbeats, sensors that run on body heat. This technology exists. But why would anyone monitor me? I insisted. I'm nobody. I don't have access to anything valuable. Maybe that's exactly why, Dr. Huang said. Maybe whoever did this wanted someone unremarkable, someone who wouldn't be suspected of anything. She paused. Or maybe you're not as unremarkable as you think. Maybe there's something about you, something you have or know or can access that makes you valuable to someone. The idea was unsettling in a way I couldn't quite articulate. I'd spent my entire life being invisible, being overlooked, being the guy people forgot about 5 minutes after meeting. The thought that someone had been watching me, monitoring me, finding me interesting enough to implant surveillance technology, it violated something fundamental about my identity. What do we do now? I asked. Dr. Wong placed the device back in its container and sealed it. First, I'm going to have this analyzed by someone I trust, a colleague who specializes in biomedical engineering. He's discreet, and he won't ask uncomfortable questions. Then, depending on what he finds, we decide our next steps. She looked at me seriously. In the meantime, David, I need you to be very careful. Don't tell anyone about this. Don't change your routine in any obvious way. If someone has been monitoring you, they might notice if you suddenly start acting differently. You think they're still watching? I said. I think the device was active until we removed it, she said. Which means someone, somewhere, just lost their signal from you. They're going to notice. And how they react to that loss will tell us a lot about what's really going on. I left the dental office in a daze. My mouth still sore from the procedure, my mind racing with impossible implications. I drove home on autopilot, barely noticing the traffic, the other cars, the familiar streets of my neighborhood. When I finally pulled into my apartment complex parking lot, I sat in my car for 10 minutes just trying to process everything. Someone had implanted a microchip in my tooth. Someone had been monitoring me for at least 4 years. Someone found me, boring, forgettable David Carver, interesting enough to surveil. The question was why, and the more terrifying question was what they'd do now that the device was gone. I went inside, fed database, and tried to go about my evening normally. Made dinner, leftover pad thai reheated in the microwave, watched TV without really seeing it, went to bed at my usual time. But I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what Dr. Huang had said. Don't change your routine. Act normal. But what was normal when you just discovered your entire life had been observed by unknown parties? At 2 a.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I stared at it for 3 rings before answering. Hello? Mr. Carver, a man's voice said. Calm, professional, with a slight accent I couldn't place. We need to talk about your dental appointment today. My blood went cold. Who is this? Someone who's been very interested in your well-being, the voice said. Someone who's been monitoring your health and activities to ensure your safety. And someone who's very concerned that you've removed a valuable piece of medical equipment. Medical equipment? I said, trying to keep my voice steady. You mean the spy device someone implanted in my tooth without my knowledge or consent? A pause. Then, I understand you're upset, Mr. Carver. But I assure you, the device was placed for your protection. You're part of a very important study, one that could benefit countless people. By removing the monitor, you've compromised years of research and put yourself at potential risk. Bullshit, I said, anger overriding fear. You don't implant spy devices in people for their protection. You don't do medical research without informed consent. What the hell is this really about? Another pause, longer this time. Meet me tomorrow night, the voice said, 9 p.m. at the Forest Park trailhead on Northwest Thurman Street. Come alone. I'll explain everything, and then you can decide whether to trust us or go to the authorities. But I think once you understand the full situation, you'll realize we're not your enemy. And if I don't come, I asked, then you'll spend the rest of your life wondering why you were chosen, the voice said, and you'll never understand the danger you're actually in. He hung up before I could respond. I didn't sleep at all that night. I spent the hours until dawn researching everything I could find about covert surveillance, microchip implants, government monitoring programs. Most of what I found was conspiracy theory nonsense, but buried in the noise were some legitimate stories. CIA experiments in the 50s and 60s, corporate espionage programs, medical trials that violated ethical guidelines. The world, it turned out, was full of organizations willing to use people without their knowledge. At 8 a.m., Dr. Huang called. Her voice was tight with tension. David, I had my colleague examine the device. He's very concerned. This isn't standard surveillance equipment. The chip has capabilities he's never seen before. It wasn't just monitoring your location or recording audio. It was interfacing directly with your nervous system, tracking neural activity, possibly even influencing it. Influencing it? I repeated. You mean mind control? Not control exactly, she said. More like subtle suggestion. The device could potentially stimulate certain neural pathways, create mild impulses towards specific behaviors, nothing you'd notice consciously, but enough to affect decision-making over time. David, whoever implanted this, they've been doing more than watching you. They've been shaping you. The implications hit me like a physical blow. How much of my life had actually been mine? How many of my choices, my thoughts, my preferences had been genuinely my own, versus subtly influenced by the device in my tooth? Was I even the person I thought I was? I got a call last night, I told her. Someone who knows about the device. They want to meet tonight to explain everything. I gave her the details. Don't go, she said immediately. This could be a trap. They might try to silence you, or worse, implant something else. You need to go to the authorities, David. FBI, maybe. This is way beyond anything we can handle. But I couldn't shake what the voice on the phone had said. You'll never understand the danger you're actually in. What if there was something bigger happening? What if going to the authorities put me in more danger rather than less? I'll think about it, I told Dr. Huang, which was a lie. I'd already decided I was going to that meeting. I spent the day at work trying to act normal, processing insurance claims, attending a mind-numbingly boring meeting about updated actuarial models. But I was watching everyone differently now. Was my boss part of this? The IT guy who'd set up my computer? The woman from accounting who always smiled at me in the break room? How deep did this conspiracy go? At 8:45 p.m., I drove to Forest Park. The Thurman Street trailhead is a popular hiking spot during the day, but at night, it's dark and isolated, surrounded by dense trees. I parked in the empty lot and sat in my car, watching for any sign of movement. At exactly 9 p.m., a black SUV pulled in beside me. The back door opened. "Mr. Carver, please," a voice called from inside. "We don't have much time." Against every instinct screaming at me to drive away, I got out of my car and climbed into the SUV. There were 3 people inside. The driver, who I couldn't see clearly, a woman in her 40s sitting in the back seat, and a man about my age sitting across from me. It was the man who spoke. "Thank you for coming," he said. "I know this is frightening and confusing. My name is Dr. Adrian Foster, and I'm with a research division you've never heard of. We're funded partly by DARPA, partly by private biotech firms, and our work is classified at levels that most government officials don't even know exist." "Great," I said. "So I'm part of some black budget experiment? That's so much better than regular illegal surveillance." Dr. Foster smiled slightly. "I understand your anger. But please, let me explain why you were chosen, what we've been studying, and why we're in considerably more danger now than you realize." He pulled out a tablet and showed me a graph. Complex neural patterns, brain activity charts, data I didn't fully understand. "8 years ago," he said, "our monitoring systems detected an anomaly. There's a specific neural signature, a pattern of brain activity that appears in roughly 1 in every 2 million people. We don't fully understand what causes it, but people with this signature have unusual cognitive abilities. Enhanced pattern recognition, predictive processing, the ability to see connections that others miss." "You're saying I'm some kind of psychic?" I asked skeptically. "Not psychic, doctor," Foster corrected. "More like your brain processes information in a fundamentally different way. You see patterns in data that shouldn't be visible. You make connections that seem like intuition, but are actually your subconscious mind processing variables at an incredibly rapid rate. Haven't you ever wondered why you're so good at your job? Why you can predict insurance risk factors with uncanny accuracy?" "I'd always just thought I was good with numbers," I admitted. "You're not good with numbers," he said. "You're perceiving reality at a different level than most people. And 4 years ago, when we first detected your signature, we placed a monitoring device to study how this ability develops and functions. We've been collecting data on neural pathway formation, trying to understand the mechanism." "So you've been using me as a lab rat?" I said. "We've been studying a rare cognitive phenomenon that could revolutionize our understanding of human consciousness," Dr. Foster corrected. "And yes, we did it without your consent, which was ethically questionable. But the potential benefits to neuroscience, to medicine, to our understanding of the human mind, we believed it justified the intrusion." The woman in the back seat spoke for the first time. Her voice was soft but urgent. "The problem, Mr. Carver, is that you're not the only one who knows about people like you. There are other organizations, less benevolent organizations, who've been searching for individuals with your neural signature. They want to exploit your abilities for purposes we can only guess at. Corporate espionage, market manipulation, perhaps even worse. While you had our monitoring device, you were protected. We could track if anyone else was targeting you. Now that it's gone, you're vulnerable." "This is insane," I said. "You're telling me I'm in danger because I can predict insurance claims really well?" Dr. Foster leaned forward. 3 months ago, one of our other research subjects disappeared. A woman in Boston with the same neural signature. She'd removed her monitoring device after discovering it during an MRI. 2 weeks later, she vanished. No trace. Local police think she left voluntarily, but we know better. Someone took her. He showed me another file on his tablet. A photo of a woman about my age, smiling in what looked like a professional headshot. "Sarah Merrick," he said, "data scientist. She had your exact neural signature, and now she's gone." "How do I know you didn't take her?" I challenged. "How do I know you're not the dangerous ones?" "You don't," Dr. Foster admitted, "which is why I'm giving you a choice. You can refuse our help, go to the authorities, try to protect yourself. Or you can accept our offer. We'll implant a new monitoring device, one you know about this time, one you consent to. In exchange, we'll provide protection, financial compensation, and full transparency about our research. You'll have access to all the data we've collected, all our findings. You'll be a partner, not a subject." "And if I refuse, then you're on your own," the woman said quietly. "And based on our projections, you have maybe 6 months before someone else finds you. These people we're worried about, they're very good at identifying and acquiring individuals with rare abilities." You'll disappear just like Sarah did. I sat in that SUV in that dark parking lot, trying to process everything they were telling me. Part of me wanted to believe they were lying, that this was all some elaborate manipulation. But I couldn't deny the evidence. The device had been real. The neural monitoring had been real. And somewhere in Boston, a woman with a brain like mine had vanished without a trace. I need time to think, I said. You have 24 hours, Dr. Foster said. After that, we'll withdraw our protection protocols entirely. You'll be completely exposed. He handed me a business card with nothing but a phone number. Call when you decide. I went home and spent the night researching Sarah Merrick. Found her LinkedIn profile, her Facebook page, her Instagram account, all inactive since 3 months ago. Her last post had been a cheerful photo of her morning coffee. Just another Tuesday, she'd written. No indication she was planning to disappear. I found news articles about her disappearance. Family desperate for information. Police investigation going nowhere. She just vanished. Dr. Huang called at midnight. Did you meet with them? She asked. I told her everything. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. David, I think they're telling the truth. Or at least, they believe they're telling the truth. Whether their version of protection is better than taking your chances alone, that's the question. What would you do? I asked. I'd want proof, she said. Proof that Sarah Merrick was taken by someone other than them. Proof that this threat is real. Because if they're manipulating you into accepting another implant, into continuing their research with your conscious cooperation, that would be a very sophisticated way to maintain control. She was right. I needed verification. I spent the next day calling Sarah Merrick's family, pretending to be an old college friend who'd just heard about her disappearance. Her mother was desperate for any information, any lead. She told me that Sarah had been acting strange in the weeks before she vanished. Paranoid, convinced someone was following her. She told her mother about finding something unusual during a medical scan, but hadn't explained what. That lined up with Dr. Foster's story. Sarah had discovered the device, removed it, and then became aware she was being watched. By whom? Dr. Foster's team? Or someone else? I made one more call to a private investigator in Boston that I found through some insurance industry contacts. I paid him $2,000 to dig into Sarah Merrick's disappearance, to find anything the police might have missed. He called me back 6 hours later. Your friend was taken by professionals, he said. I found surveillance footage from a parking garage near her apartment the night she disappeared. 2 men in a white van, unmarked, no plates visible. They knew how to avoid cameras, but I found one angle they missed. Military precision. They grabbed her in under 30 seconds, and she was gone. He paused. Whoever took her, they're not amateurs. This was a planned extraction. Did you give this to the police? I asked. I tried, he said. They weren't interested. Said it was inconclusive. I think someone leaned on them to drop the investigation. Someone with influence. I hung up and stared at Dr. Foster's business card. The evidence suggested his story was true. Sarah Merrick had been taken by professionals after removing her monitoring device, which meant I was likely next on their list, whoever they were. I called the number. Dr. Foster answered immediately. Mr. Carver, have you made a decision? I want full transparency, I said. Complete access to all research data. Financial compensation at a rate we negotiate, not one you dictate. And I want the device to have a manual kill switch that I control. If I ever want it removed, you do it immediately, no questions. Those are my terms. A pause, then agreed. We can have the implantation procedure scheduled for tomorrow. Same dentist, Dr. Huang. We'll handle it through her office to maintain your cover as routine dental work. One more thing, I said. I want to know who took Sarah Merrick. I want to know who I'm being protected from. We'll brief you fully after the procedure, Dr. Foster said. Some of that information is classified, but given your cooperation, we can read you in. Welcome to the program, David. Officially this time. The second implantation procedure happened 2 days later. Dr. Huang performed it personally, with Dr. Foster's team providing the new device. This one was more sophisticated, he explained. Same monitoring capabilities, but with encrypted transmission that couldn't be intercepted, and a biometric kill switch that would deactivate it if my heart rate indicated extreme stress. It was, in their words, designed to protect me rather than just study me. After the procedure, as I sat in Dr. Huang's office with my mouth still numb, Dr. Foster showed me the classified briefing. The organization tracking people like me was called the Prometheus Group, a private military contractor with ties to foreign intelligence services. They'd been recruiting individuals with rare cognitive abilities for 3 years, building a network of enhanced analysts and predictors. Sarah Merrick had been one of their targets. She'd refused their initial approach, so they'd taken her by force. What do they use these people for? I asked. Everything, Dr. Foster said grimly. Market manipulation, political forecasting, intelligence analysis, corporate espionage. Your ability to see patterns, to predict outcomes before they're obvious, that's worth billions to the right buyers. The Prometheus Group sells cognitive services to the highest bidder. They're mercenaries who deal in enhanced human intelligence. And you're what? The good guys trying to stop them? I asked skeptically. We're trying to understand the phenomenon, Dr. Foster said. They're trying to exploit it. Neither of us asked your permission, which makes us both morally compromised. But at least we're not kidnapping people and selling their minds to whoever can pay. He showed me more files. 8 other individuals with my neural signature who disappeared over the past 2 years. All of them taken after being identified by the Prometheus Group. All of them now working, voluntarily or not, in various capacities around the world, predicting stock market crashes, identifying terrorist threats, analyzing geopolitical situations. Their rare cognitive abilities being harvested and deployed like any other strategic resource. What happened to Sarah Merrick specifically? I asked. Last intelligence suggests she's in Singapore, Doctor, Foster said quietly, working for a hedge fund that's owned by a shell company that's owned by the Prometheus Group. She's making them approximately $40 million per quarter in optimized trading decisions. Whether she's there willingly or under duress, we don't know. I felt sick. This woman, this person with a brain like mine, was being used as a human computer to make billionaires richer. And I'd almost ended up in the same situation. How do I know you won't do the same thing? I asked. How do I know this isn't just a nicer version of the same exploitation? You don't, Dr. Foster admitted. All I can tell you is that our research is aimed at understanding, not utilizing. We want to know why your brain works differently, how it developed this way, whether it can be replicated ethically. We're not interested in turning you into a cognitive weapon, but I can't prove that. You have to decide whether to trust us. I went home that night with a new device in my tooth, a federal research program monitoring my brain activity, and the knowledge that there were people out there who'd kidnap me for my unusual ability to predict insurance risk patterns. My normal, boring life had become something out of a paranoid thriller, and the worst part was that I couldn't tell anyone, couldn't explain to friends why I'd become jumpy and paranoid. Couldn't report any of this to authorities who might already be compromised. Over the next 3 months, I settled into an uneasy routine. I went to work, did my job, lived my life while knowing that every neural impulse was being monitored and analyzed by Dr. Foster's team. They provided regular updates on the research. I learned that my brain produced unusual gamma wave patterns during complex problem solving, that my synaptic connections had formed in atypical configurations during childhood development, that what felt like intuition was actually my subconscious mind processing thousands of variables simultaneously and producing probabilistic forecasts. I was, in essence, a biological prediction engine, and I'd been that way my entire life without knowing it. Foster's team also provided security. I never saw them, but I knew they were there. The occasional car that seemed to follow me home, but never approached. The new neighbor who moved in across the hall and was definitely too attentive to my comings and goings to be a normal person. The protection was subtle, but constant. Until the day it wasn't. I came home from work on a Thursday afternoon to find my apartment door slightly ajar. Database. My cat was cowering under the couch, and sitting at my kitchen table was a woman I'd never seen before. She was in her 40s, professionally dressed, with the kind of calm confidence that suggested she was very comfortable with breaking and entering. "Hello, David," she said. "My name is Catherine Vance. I'm with the Prometheus Group. I think it's time we had a conversation about your future." My hand went to my phone, ready to call Dr. Foster's emergency number. She shook her head. "They can't get here in time. And I'm not here to take you by force. I'm here to make you an offer. A better offer than the one you accepted from Dr. Foster." "I'm not interested," I said. "You don't even know what I'm offering," she countered. She pulled out a tablet and showed me a bank account. "There's $15 million in this account. It's yours if you come work for us voluntarily for 5 years. After that, you're free to leave, no strings attached. We'll train you, enhance your abilities, give you resources that Foster's academic research program could never provide." She smiled. "And unlike Foster, we won't treat you like a lab specimen. You'll be a valued employee, not a research subject." "You kidnap people," I said. Sarah Merrick didn't have a choice. "Sarah had a choice," Catherine corrected. "She just made it after initially refusing. Sometimes people need to see the alternatives before they understand the opportunity. But you, David, you're smarter than that. You can see the logical decision here. Work with us voluntarily, get rich, use your abilities to their full potential. Or keep letting Foster poke around in your brain while you live in a one-bedroom apartment and process insurance claims for $60,000 a year." She had a point, which made her dangerous. What she was offering was everything I'd never had. Wealth, purpose, recognition for abilities I'd never known I possessed. But the cost was my freedom, my ethics, my fundamental sense of self. "Get out of my apartment," I said. Catherine stood. "Think about it, David. You have my number now." She gestured to a business card she'd left on my table. "When you're tired of being a lab rat, when you want to be a partner instead of a specimen, call me. The offer stands for 30 days. After that, well, then our approach becomes less polite." She left, and I immediately called Dr. Foster. He and his team arrived within 10 minutes, swept the apartment for listening devices, interviewed me about every detail of the conversation. They were scared. I could see it. Catherine Vance's personal visit meant the Prometheus Group was escalating. They'd found me despite the protection protocols. They'd made direct contact. The situation was deteriorating. "We need to move you," Dr. Foster said. "New apartment, new identity, full witness protection style relocation. It's the only way to keep you safe." "For how long?" I asked. "How long do I run? How long do I hide?" "As long as it takes for us to shut down the Prometheus Group's operations," he said. "We're working with international law enforcement, building cases against their front companies. But it takes time." "And what about Sarah Merrick?" I demanded. "What about the 8 other people they've already taken? Are you helping them?" "We're trying," Dr. Foster said quietly. "But they're well protected, legally speaking. The people working for them appear to be doing so voluntarily, at least on paper. Until we can prove coercion, until we can penetrate their corporate structure deeply enough to demonstrate kidnapping and forced labor, our hands are tied." "So I'm supposed to spend the rest of my life running from an organization you can't stop?" I said. "Because I have the misfortune of being born with a weird brain?" Dr. Foster didn't have an answer for that, and that's when I understood the real situation I was in. Both sides saw me as a resource to be utilized. Foster's team wanted to study me for science. The Prometheus Group wanted to exploit me for profit. Nobody was actually concerned with what I wanted, what I needed, what kind of life I could live. I was valuable property in a war I hadn't asked to join. That night, I made a decision. I called Catherine Vance. "We need to meet," I said. "I have a counteroffer." We met in a neutral location, a coffee shop in a busy shopping district where Dr. Foster's team couldn't easily surveil. Catherine listened as I laid out my terms. I would work for the Prometheus Group, but on my conditions: 30 million instead of 15, complete autonomy over which projects I worked on, no forced assignments, no illegal activities, and a guarantee in writing that I could leave after 3 years instead of 5, with no repercussions. "You're negotiating like you have leverage," Catherine said, amused. "You don't." "Yes, I do," I countered. "I have the leverage of making your life harder. You can kidnap me, like you did Sarah. But then I'll be an unwilling, uncooperative employee who performs just badly enough to be useless. Or you can treat me like the intelligent person I am and accept that I'm willing to work with you if the terms are fair." She studied me for a long moment. Then she smiled. "You really are as smart as Foster's data suggests. 25 million, 4 years, and you get approval rights on assignments, but not veto power. That's my final offer." "Done," I said. "And I want you to let Sarah Merrick go as part of the deal. Release her from whatever hold you have. Let her return to her family." Catherine shook her head. "Sarah's case is more complicated. She's been with us long enough to know operational details. We can't release her without significant risk. But I can arrange for her to have more freedom, better conditions. That's the best I can do." It wasn't good enough, but it was something. I accepted the deal. 3 days later, I disappeared. From Dr. Foster's perspective, from my job's perspective, from my normal life's perspective, David Carver simply vanished. My apartment was empty. My phone was disconnected. My email bounced. For all intents and purposes, I'd become exactly what I'd always been afraid of becoming: nobody. But the truth was more complicated. I'd made a choice, a calculated decision based on pattern recognition and probability assessment. Working with the Prometheus Group gave me resources and access that Dr. Foster never could. It gave me a chance to change the system from inside, to help people like Sarah, to maybe, eventually, bring the whole organization down. Or maybe I was just rationalizing. Maybe I'd sold out for money and comfort. Maybe the device in my tooth, whether Foster's or Prometheus's, had been influencing my decisions all along, making me compliant, making me choose the path that served their interests. I don't know. That's the terrible truth I live with now. I don't know if any choice I make is truly mine, or if it's been subtly guided by the technology embedded in my body. I don't know if my thoughts are my own, or if they're being shaped by algorithms and neural manipulation. What I do know is this: my dentist found a microchip in my tooth that I never consented to. That discovery led me down a rabbit hole of classified research programs, private military contractors, and the commodification of rare human cognitive abilities. It revealed that I wasn't the boring, unremarkable P. I was wanted. And in the end, that made me more trapped than free. Because when you're valuable enough, someone will always be trying to own you. Whether it's scientists who want to study you, corporations that want to exploit you, or governments that want to control you, your freedom becomes negotiable. Your consent becomes optional. Your life becomes a resource to be managed rather than experienced. I still have a microchip in my tooth, a different one now. Placed by different people for different purposes. I work in a luxury office in a city I can't name, using my strange brain to predict outcomes for clients I never meet. I make more money in a month than I used to make in a year. I live in a penthouse apartment with a view of mountains and ocean, and I dream every night of my old life, my cramped apartment, my cat database, who I hope found a good home, my boring job processing insurance claims, the simple, unremarkable existence of David Carver, a person who didn't matter enough to surveil. Because here's what I learned: Being special is a curse when the wrong people notice. Having rare abilities is dangerous when those abilities can be weaponized. And sometimes, the greatest freedom is being ordinary enough that no one cares to control you. My dentist found a microchip in my tooth. I wish she never had. I wish I'd remained ignorant, lived my small life, died unremarkably. Instead, I know too much. I've seen too much. I've become too much. And now I can never go back to being nobody. The only question is whether I can figure out how to be somebody on my own terms, or if I'll spend the rest of my life being somebody else's asset. The device in my tooth is transmitting right now. Someone is reading my neural patterns, analyzing my thoughts, maybe even shaping them in ways I can't detect. And I have to live with that uncertainty, that violation, that constant awareness that my mind isn't entirely my own. That's the real horror, not the conspiracy, not the kidnappings, not even the exploitation. It's the loss of certainty about who you are. When your thoughts can be monitored and potentially influenced, when your decisions might not be entirely your own, what's left of you? What part of David Carver still exists? And what part is just programmed responses and guided impulses? I don't have an answer. Maybe I never will. All I know is that somewhere in my tooth, a tiny piece of technology is recording everything. And my thoughts, my choices, my entire existence reduced to data points in someone else's research. So when your dentist finds something unusual in your x-rays, when they tell you there's something that shouldn't be there, believe them. Because sometimes the impossible is true. Sometimes the paranoid nightmares are real. And sometimes the most terrifying thing in the world is discovering that you were never as free as you thought you were. The microchip is still there, still monitoring, still transmitting, and I've learned to live with it, the way you learn to live with any chronic condition. It's part of me now, whether I like it or not. Just like the knowledge that someone is always watching, always analyzing, always deciding what I'm worth.